Eng Teng was a good friend of Brother Joe McNally, and I was very close to Brother Joe as well. In those days, we were trying to set up the Lasalle School or College of the Arts, and Eng Teng was very much involved in it. So I would meet him and Brother Joe in the old Lasalle campus, the one in Mountbatten. And it had a very checkered history because Brother Joe had to support Lasalle Art School out of his own pocket. He had to pay for the CPF. He took his own CPF to pay the teachers of Lasalle. And Eng Teng would contribute as much as he could as a person and as an artist to give moral support. And more than that, I'm sure he must have given financial support to the Lasalle Art School. And he was a key member there. In the early days, he was not only a teacher there, but he was also an intellectual leader to help Brother McNally realize the vision of Lasalle Arts College.
When Eng Teng was studying at the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts, the emphasis was on paintings and drawings. From the significant number of paintings, drawings and sketches of portraitures and landscapes in this collection, it's evident that he paid close attention to this training. He was always practicing, experimenting and refining his techniques. In fact, he felt that in art making, one needs to build the foundation through paintings, drawings and sketchings, because these exercises helps a person to understand the more formalistic aspects of art making, such as forms, shapes, colors and textures. Even in his landscape paintings, when human subjects are absent, he manages to convey this very deep and strong human emotion of loss. For example, End of History and After the Fire, he conveys this feeling through the massive destruction to the man-made structures, the charred remains of trees, and also the forlorn and completely abandoned landscape. Ng Eng Teng's sculptures were predominantly featuring humanistic themes. He depicted the strife and struggles that people had with the world as well as within themselves. But even in his early drawings, this empathy for the human condition was evident. This is a painting of an orphan. He felt lonely and didn't feel that life had much meaning for him. He wanted to do away with his own life, and Eng Teng talked him out of it. This painting was done after that particular situation. These sculptures are cast in cement fondu, finished in a variety of colors and slightly different textures. Fear, Anxiety and Pancake belong to a series of figures in distress. Ng was actively producing this series from the late 1960s to 70s. It was also a time when his works were more elaborate and the body, especially the musculature, was depicted in quite precise detail. In his later works, Ng tended to adopt a more stylized and simplified approach. Elements of the body are reduced to their basic forms, and only those required to communicate the message were retained. Ng made numerous sketches of his ideas, some of which were developed into three-dimensional forms. These are studies for his range of mobile sculptures. The one on the left were ideas which eventually became these hemispherical shapes that are able to roll on the ground. And the sketch on the right shows a series of sculptures with rocking movements, and one of them is presented here. Cement fondu was one of the medium which Ng used for his sculpture making. He liked it because he felt that it was flexible and practical. It's essentially concrete, so especially when making large sculptures, it was economical and the cost was not prohibitive. Besides that, the cement sculptures can be made hollow in the middle, and hence it was not too heavy and made it easy to transport. Cost aside, he felt that cement fondue sculptures were easy to repair. For example, if there was a crack or if it chipped off in some places. Consequently, you'll find that for many of his public artworks, he used cement fondue as a media. In the process of making sculptures, Ng normally started with drawings, and then sometimes he would make maquettes before making the actual pieces. Maquettes are just experimental pieces. They're much smaller in scale, and they allowed him to test composition, balance, as well as proportion. This maquette is of balance. The actual piece resides at Fort Canning. It was made for the first ASEAN Sculptural Symposium in 1981. It was Ng's way of saying that we have a lot of balancing to do in life. Even amongst countries and at governmental level, this balancing is required to maintain some harmony and synergy.
Besides helping to design the pottery studio for CFA, he helped to organize courses to demonstrate pottery making to the campus, to the students, to the staff, and he also contributed to a big ceramics exhibition which was held once every 3 years starting with 1999. This was Ceramitivity. There was a CFA pottery committee chaired by my predecessor, Prof. Edwin Tambu, and Eng Teng was a member of this committee together with Iskandar Jalil, Chua Soo Kim, and Dr. A. Raman, who is now based in US. This committee looked into the building of the pottery studio in CFA, and when it was completed, the committee helped to program the pottery classes and the exhibition that was a result of the classes.
After I graduated as an architect, that I was approached by Mr. Sabapati again to help translate some texts because he had been writing and preparing works by Eng Teng for donation to NUS. And subsequently, I found myself also helping with the transfer, as well as the design of the first Ng Eng Teng gallery. And this was in the Central Library in NUS. Yeah, at that time there was a lot of excitement because it was probably the first donation by an artist, and quite an extensive one. I think it was over 400 art objects, paintings, sculpture, maquettes, sketches, drawings, sketchbooks to NUS.
NUS also perhaps is one of the most important research center in Singapore. So in that sense, contributing, donating to the NUS is significant for Ng Eng Teng in order to allow his objects, his materials, his artworks to be defined in relation to other collections, namely the Southeast Asian, as well as allowing it to be developed further as a source for research, as a source for continual understanding in modern and contemporary Singapore art.
Okay, today I will be guiding you through this family area, which Ng Eng Teng holds close to his heart, as he went abroad for a few years to study about art. So the main reason that he came back, although he was doing one series, and then after that the financial series. So now I'll talk to you about
think firstly, in Singapore, it's generally accepted that Ng Eng Teng is Singapore's one of Singapore's most significant, if not most significant, sculptor, and he emerged during the period just after the 1950s, and in that sense, he is an important actor in the development of modern as well as contemporary Singapore art. And for us, the collections that we receive, about 1,200 pieces of them, continues to provide a context in which we can study, we can understand, we can appreciate Singapore's development from the 60s onwards. And we see this in relation to the earlier works that we already have in collection by Singapore's earlier modernists, people like Chen Chong Swee, Chong Su Peng, and even Georgette Chen. So these are important resources in which one may look into when one attempted to begin to understand and appreciate Singapore art.
Growing up in the 60s and 70s, and as one started getting older and moving around the city, suddenly we realized that there was a conscious effort to have public sculptures, public art, and I remember it was a joy because as students and having an inclination to art and design, it was quite refreshing to me and also quite inspiring. Because, for example, if, I remember, I think it was called Mother and Child, Ng Eng Teng, which was at Far East Plaza, and I would almost have to pass by that every day because I took a bus, and then from the bus stop I had to walk to school, so I would pass by it, and of course at that time it seemed like a big piece of sculpture, but I was just feeling, right at the commencement of Orchard Road, there was a piece of sculpture to mark that kind of space, so I was quite inspired at that time. Yes, of course Plaza Singapura was, I think it was owned by DBS, but as you were waiting and you could walk around and there were these two sculptures there, and I didn't know at that time it was by Ng Teng. It was only much later when there was an involvement with Ng Eng Teng. Much later, when architecture student days onwards, that I found out they were by Ng Eng Teng. But they were quite prominent because I think they were at two ends of the atrium space. And I suppose it was being at the right place at the right time, and knowing that Plaza Singapura was going to be refurbished. The next question, of course, was what's going to happen to the sculptures. From my knowledge as an architect and from the way that Singapore was developing, I started wondering, what would be the fate of these two sculptures in the atrium that I had seen using that space. The main contacts were through the staff at the Centre for the Arts. I had suggested the possibility, and subsequently, I think when it came to the transfer, there was, I think what transpired was that DBS was okay with the donation, but NUS would have to bear the costs of transport, as well as the design and construction of pedestals for wealth and containment.